Oh. All right, my name
Ben Borden. This is my wife Becky. I don't attend this summer anymore. For 15 years. So you can like continue. So Becky and I married 11 years. Yeah, 10 more or less anyway. So I ranch in the 60s that I attended. We have 12 people in our ranch. So my parents joined the church. They were first generation, so we were raised in that environment. Really good upbringing in the South. 5 belts.
sorry, nothing was good. That. Sorry, too much. So we're with us out in this family of all points. I have 5 older brothers and no sister. So it's a lot like growing up in a constant wars. You know, it's kind of like you're competing for food and things like that. But by the time I was 10 or 11 or 12, I knew that I was very different than my brothers and my friends. I knew that I was gay, and at that time, this is like the 70s, there were no really positive messages about what it meant to be gay, what it meant to be attracted to other men. And so, even in church, right, the words that we were taught, you remember the miracle of forgiveness? Yeah. Like the most depressing book ever written, basically. But yeah, there's this whole section on how the words that they taught us about what it means to be gay, broken, sick, depraved, twisted, those sank deep into my heart as a young kid, right? And so that was, and it was a time when you had life in your hands, right? People were still being beat up and killed in the South, right, for being gay. And so I grew up with the sense of there was something really, really wrong. And that really stayed in my heart the whole time. And I thought, man, the way to get around this is have faith, right? That's what it's taught. If I have faith, if I pray enough, if I be righteous enough, if I follow every little rule, but just hold on as hard as I can, then God will fix it. He'll take this away from me. So I went on a mission. I went on an ASL. I was in Indiana, North Carolina, and Michigan. Elder Castro was one of my companions. Elder Mike Five, Tony Clark had some wonderful experiences. Became fluent at the time. Finished my mission, went to BYU. I was married 6 months later, just like this whole in the calendar. Right? But of course, it wasn't. The pressure inside of me, the guilt inside of me, was something I couldn't live with. It was increasingly difficult. And so after about, actually during my first marriage, I got recruited to go work for the CIA as an interpreter, actually. The CIA has, as you probably know, a whole bunch of people to work on. So I worked there for 7 years before I decided to go to law school. I am now a lawyer, a partner in DC and in artificial intelligence. But when I moved to DC, I finally kind of gave it up. I said, look, you cannot be LDS and gay. Those two things do not exist at the same time, at the same place. And so I left the church, got divorced, met a man who became my husband for the next 20 years, who was actually a co-host. Another interpreter, all of his family was dead. And I left the church for 20 years. But there was I always believe in church. I always believe in Christ as my Savior. I have a very deep testimony of the truth of the gospel. I just felt like it couldn't be perfect. Turns out that's not true. So after 20 years, I could not live without the gospel in my life. This is the church, I guess, the same as I missed my life having that fullness and richness to it. And so my now ex-husband, decided to divorce, and I decided to come back to church. And at that point, so her story is very interconnected.
So I'm Becky. Nice to meet you. I met Bennett when he served part of his mission in our ward in North Carolina. I was 14, and he was a punk kid. And I didn't like him. Yeah, because he was mean to me. But I was the oldest of 5 kids. And my mom converted to the church when I was 4. So we were first generation converts. My whole family was Quaker. Back 12 generations. And my mom converted to the church. We are all from the Northeast, but we ended up in the South somehow. And I lived there my whole life. But when I met Bennett, I already knew that I was gay. I knew when I hit puberty that I was different than all the other girls around me. But it was still the 80s in the South. A little bit. But I didn't want to talk about it or tell anybody about it. Because I didn't know what they would say, and I didn't know what to feel about it. I honestly, at the time, I thought that I had a superpower. I thought that I was special, that because I liked romantic boys at the time, and I dated a lot of boys, but I wasn't really interested in them. It was just what I was supposed to do. So I did. Then I got married at 21, at 23.
I didn't
I didn't either. He was a jerk. But I left the church at that time as well. And I came out when I was 23. And I was in relationships with women for 15, 20 years until my relationship ended. And I was living here in Salt Lake City because God has a sense of humor. So I was living here and my relationship ended and I was so sad, so sad. And I texted Bennett, texted him, oh, my relationship just ended. And I'm so sad. And I don't know what happens next. Because he and I have been friends that whole time. He came to our family meetings. He came to our school events. He was part of our family since his mission. And so he was like my brother. And so we started talking because I was so sad, and he told me that same day his relationship ended the same day. And so we started talking about what came next for both of us. Did we want to come back to the church? Why was that so terrifying? We didn't know what to do, but we knew that we felt good when we talked to each other, that it made everything just a little bit better. It a lot. It was a lot. But over time, started to get to know each other better because of what we were going through. Because we were both gay, because we both had a testimony in the gospel. His was a lot stronger than mine was. You know the scripture that says that you just have a desire to believe? I had a desire to have a desire to believe. So the more that we talked about these things together, the closer we became. And that brings us to the next bit, the next part. Yeah.
So it was really, like you said, we had been friends for 20 years ever since my mission. They were, and it's really interesting where my mind is on. My mother was really, really close to me a couple of years before this. And I was really missing her around Mother's Day that year. And so I decided I was going to do something to make her proud of me. And so I decided to read the Book of Mormon. I had done it. Now, here's a practice here. If you're trying to stay away from the church, don't read the Book of Mormon. Turns out that once you do that, then all the promises and all the things that are in there start to touch your heart. And it got to the point where I was going to readdress this idea of, can I be gay and be a member of the church at the same time? Terrifying idea. I had spent my whole life trying to fight that and struggle with that. But I also had now left the church and had a beautiful, fulfilling relationship. I got to law school. I was a partner at a big law firm. I had all the things that were supposed to make me happy. And yet I actually wasn't. I didn't have that peace that seeps into your heart. And so I was willing to set aside this idea that it wasn't possible. I began to make room for the idea, well, maybe I can get into the church and still be gay. Because I knew the gay wouldn't go away. And so Becky and I started having this conversation about, well, what do we want to do with our lives? And we started reading literature together. She was in Salt Lake, I was in DC. We would read and talk every day. And
told me to read the scriptures as if it was all true, which was different for me because I had read it skeptically. But when you read it, assuming that the promises of the scriptures are true, it's different in your heart. The Spirit works on you in different ways, and when you truly open yourself up to the Lord, to the Spirit, through the scriptures, it changes you from the inside out. And that was a different experience.
it really was. That's a really great point, right? Because when you start to read at the beginning, like I will go and do the things that the Lord has commanded, Levi's outside the wall. But if it's not like there's a comma that says, except for y'all gay kids, because that's really hard to do. Right? Like all of the promises. In 2 Nephi 2:25, where the Lord said, Lehi said to his children, all things are given for expedient on demand, but you are free to choose liberty to eternal life. There's no comma except the all gay kids. And so once you start thinking, well, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, it changed how we felt about the world. So Becky and I started thinking about going back to church. And we set up meetings with our bishops, which was a very sort of study time. Yeah. But as we started contemplating coming back, it was to come back as best friends together, simultaneously, but it's very interesting what happened over the next several months as we
actually. It was terrifying, and I don't know why, other than it was such a big change. I felt like as a woman that I was agreeing to become a second-class citizen, that I was leaving behind what I had created professionally and in my community and who I felt like I was. And I thought that being a Latter-day Saint woman meant I was going to be subservient to the men around me, and I was struggling so hard with that.
I actually taught her how to
He did. That's true. I didn't wear it. But I actually had to re-educate myself. While I had been away from the church, Satan had educated me through lots of worldly opinions on what it meant to be a Latter-day Saint woman. And I had listened to that. And I hadn't been feeding myself good information to counteract that. So I had to re-educate myself by reading books by Sherry Dew, books by, who was the gal that was in the first name?
Yeah, for
Beverly, Campbell. I had to read good books to educate myself on what women really are, what Latter-day Saint covenant-keeping women really are. And I realized through re-educating myself that was who I wanted to be. I wanted to be that kind of woman, and that kind of woman was even more than the woman I had become in the world. That's what I wanted. I was willing to sacrifice anything that the Lord asked of me in order to be able to be that woman, to be in a covenant relationship with God. That was more important to me than anything else I thought I had achieved in my life or that I had in my life. And that was my turning point. And so over the time of the year before we got married, and then after we got married in 2013, a few months later, we were rebaptized together. And I know I just made a big jump because we were still friends just a minute ago, right?
well, that's part.
Wait, okay, all right, tell that part.
So it's during this time we were talking about, we were just planning on going back to church together. And I was lamenting to the Lord. I'm like, Lord, I really want to do this, but I presume, like so many people do, that you have two choices. You're either out of the church with a fabulous husband living in San Francisco, where you are, and that's wearing beautiful fashionable clothes, right? Or you're alone for the rest of your life as an old spinster, just white knuckling it until you die. Well, so I was lamenting that. I'm like, look, I'm willing to be an old spinster, white knuckling it until I die. If that's what you asked of me. But cool to have a partnership with someone that I knew and loved. Like I could see being with a woman if that woman was like Becky. Becky's amazing. She's my best friend. She knows everything. She's so smart. She's so talented. Man, if there was only a woman like Becky, I could marry her. And the Lord was like, there's actually Becky. And I was like, no, that's no, she's one. She's my sister too. She's a girl. My heart, like it was this instant, beautiful moment of truth. And so I called Becky and I said, Becky, and I was very sly, like, it's so, we had talked about having kids together. She and her wife had been my husband in some kind of modern Mormon compound. But so we really thought together, we respected each other, but I didn't like, hey, you're married. So I called her and said, hey, do you think there's something about this timing? Like, we're both right now back in church, do you think there's something like here? And then her response.
I said, ew. He's a boy. Yeah. But at the same time that I'm laughing, thinking about getting married to a boy, the Spirit said to me, yes, this is exactly what you are supposed to do. You should do this immediately. Don't look back. This is exactly what the Lord needs from you. And He has work for you to do. Do it immediately. And I was shell-shocked. I don't think I said anything for couple of days. Because it took me that long to try to figure out what the Spirit was saying. All I knew was a lightning bolt, and it took me time to figure out what all the messages were. And I went to a party that night, and I was standing there. A friend came up to me. She said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I have to live life." And I can hear God saying, "That's what you got out of it." And but that's I was so shocked that that's what I had to do. But I knew that I did. And the Lord knew that I knew it. And so I said, okay, I will. But I don't want to be in an empty marriage. I don't want to be in a loveless or a marriage without attraction and intimacy. I don't want that. And I don't think God wants that either. So if you want me to marry him, then I need to be able to be with him. I need to be attracted to him and love him in a romantic way. Lord's like, I got this. And sure enough, this revelation that we were supposed to be married came with love and attraction and desire for one another that I never expected. Neither one of us ever expected that.
And it's one of the greatest blessings. So we learned a bunch. This is all a backstory to tell you some things that we learned. One is we really are free to choose. That we are attracted to people that say something. You're okay. You realize, are you gay? Yeah, totally gay. They're like, yeah, but you're married before. Like, no, I'm married. And they're like, well, are you attracted to women? But it turns out I don't have to be attracted to women. I only need to be attracted to women. And it turns out that a person that you love in a covenant relationship where you open your heart and yourself to, the Lord blesses the sacrament. You hold part of your relationship. And so people say, are you in a mixed orientation marriage? No, I'm just in my marriage. My mashup name is and so we call our world Cortex. It's just our world where our rules apply, and everything looks like us. And I don't have to explain it to anybody. I don't have to defend it to anybody. It is our world. Are we both gay? 100%. Right? And so sexual attraction does not override agency. It's one of the things that we tell so many of our LGBTQ Latter-day Saint friends. We know hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them, many of them married like we are, that being gay and your attractions and your physical activity are two separate choices that you make, right? And that one does not, this is what Satan tries to do. If you're gay, you're never going to be happy unless you're with somebody, and that's the only way you're going to be happy. That's simply a false dichotomy that Satan puts forward. The other thing that we have learned is that being gay is a gift from God. It's hard for me to even say those words out loud because of how I felt about myself growing up. But each of us is born exactly how, when, where you're supposed to be. Part of the study, gospel study that Becky and I did when we were praying back in church, was why? Why am I born? Why was I born in this family that was based in Borden growing up in a little town in Tennessee? Why was I gay? Why was I like that? That's a rough deal, and I want to know why. Well, the same answer is true for all of us. We are born exactly where and how we're supposed to become our very best self and to carry out the will of the Lord, to establish sign and fulfill. So I had a therapist ask me once, how have you been blessed by being gay? I was like, that's just like how are you blessed by being born with like a rod to your head? There's no blessing anywhere. But the next started thinking, I see the world differently than straight people. I feel things differently. I have different passions. I have different experience being an outsider from mainstream society. I feel differently about women than I do. And so each of those things actually gives me different skills, perspectives, and talents that I can donate and consecrate for the Lord to build the kingdom of God and establish. And that is true of every single one of us. We should.
But I also.
I know, we're going to stop talking soon. So here's the main thing we want to talk about is the influence that our family had on us while we were away from the church. So we were both for 20 years. Like I left a marriage, married the temple, went off to the big city, and married both. And this was heartbreaking for my family in some ways, right? Same with Becky's family. Becky's family is very fast and tremendous, wonderful, wonderful people. And she was old. And so when she left the church and came out, it was really difficult for her younger. They had little kids.
My mom was single, and I had 4 siblings at home. So it was very hard for my family when I left the church and when I came out. But my mom said, when I told her, I said, I'm getting divorced and I'm gay. And she said, okay. I never really liked your ex-husband. But I know that you're gay because God told me that I needed to be ready. And we love you and we want you to be with us as much as you want to be here. And so she included me and my partner all the time. I was able to spend time with my siblings. I was able to be with her at her home. I was never shunned by my family. And that allowed me to feel the Spirit because I was in their homes. If I hadn't been invited into their homes, I would not have had the opportunity to feel the Spirit during those years. To be able to ask for a priesthood blessing, like I need one. Even though I wasn't a member anymore, I still wanted a priesthood blessing every now and then. Tells you that I still have testimony in there somewhere. So those kinds of things, because my mom, my family, I was able to be able to stay close enough to the Spirit that I wanted to come back. It was because I felt the Spirit of their home and then went back to my home. Didn't that I noticed the difference. I wouldn't have noticed the difference had I not felt the Spirit in their home. And that's really important message to me. Is that my family was instrumental in bringing me home to the gospel because they included me.
And the same was true of me. Because when I left the church, I was really, really happy at first because all the pressure of trying to live under all this pressure was gone. And I was out with friends and I thought it was great and I found someone who loved me and all those things, right? But there was always something missing. And I thought, oh, if I just finish law school, if I just get a job, if I just make a partner, if I just this. Well, that took 20 years. And I had all of those things, and still there was something missing. And the thing that was missing is what I felt when I went home. There were really 2 groups in my family when I left the church. There were half of my brothers who were not as supportive. I wasn't welcome to their home with my husband. I just had no interaction with them, so they had no access on me at all. Compared with, especially my brother Bob, who's closest in age, we were always welcome. We were there every holiday. And they just lived the gospel out loud. They had prayers during meals, they had family scripture study. They never preached to me. They never tried to convert me back to the gospel. They were genuinely interested in my life. And one of my brothers who was less welcoming, we would have family reunions and stuff, and he never missed the opportunity to basically say, Wickedness is never happiness. You're never going to be happy as long as you're outside the church. And I finally kind of blew up at it one time. I'm like, that really isn't helpful. It's like you find a guy who's fallen into a river and he's drowning, and you're like, oh yeah, that drowning thing's not good for you. You really shouldn't do that. Unhelpful, right? Like, get in there and, if you be a part of my life if you actually care about it. So one of the most important things that we can tell you as friends, loved ones, family members of you folks, whether in or out of church, you cannot have influence on them without access to them. And so it was 20 years of me going to my brother's home, my parents' home, feeling their love and acceptance in the Spirit, and then going back to my very full yet very empty life. That is what convinced me that I had to come back to the gospel.
One of the things that we often hear people say in the church is love the sinner, hate the sin. And I really don't like that saying very much, because I feel like part of that is my job, like loving the sinner, I feel like is my job, but I feel like the hating the sinner part is God's job, because He can look upon the heart and make a true judgment about someone else. I can't do that. So I've rewritten that saying. I changed it to love the sinner, invite them to dinner. Because we think that all of us need to be in a place where the Spirit is present. We're all sinners. We all like food. We all want dinner, right? And this is the way that we can minister to each other and love each other without trying to determine if you are sinning, how much are you sinning? What kind of sinning are you doing? Should I judge your sin somehow? That's exhausting for me. I just want to love you and let Heavenly Father sort you out. My job is to walk alongside you, bring you into a place where the Spirit is present, feed you, nurture you. That's my job. And I feel like that's what my family did for me. That's what my LDS friends that were thinking about this in the right way, that's what they did for me. Some of them didn't. Some of them said, oh, I can't talk to you anymore, you're gay. How that is representative of Christ, I don't know. Because that didn't help me. When I was ready to come back to the church, did I call them? No. The people that told me they couldn't be my friend anymore because they were so righteous, did I call them? No. I called the people that had loved me and included me, no matter where I was on the country. Those were the people that influenced my life.
So that's the main thing we wanted to tell you today. And you have this special gift from some dear friends of ours, Dean and Emily, tell you about their experience with it and what their experience has been along this path for.
And then we'll come back and answer questions.
Wow, I love that story. That's really touching me. So many of you, oh, Dee, I know that guy. We had services for Chicago Conference. That's neat and fun. But I have a similar story to them. He's an interpreter. He was an interpreter. I was an interpreter. Where we interpreted. Come over, please. So my experience is that I grew up. I was about 8. And I noticed that I was okay, knew that, I was different, life goes on, and then things kept popping up. Different problems I felt like I had. I felt like they were problems. But were awful, the struggles I had. God didn't accept me, all these things, and it was negative and criticizing myself. And I just keep it in and pushing it down, and I was covering it up. And over the years, I bottled it up to my self-esteem. It was just so depleted. I worked hard to build it up again. I was exhausted. I was emotionally drained. So also to add, so we have known each other since we were 3 and 4. We went to grade school together. I see her growing up together, seeing each other. We never really know what happened to her. Our romantic looks like, oh, boys and girls. That was our relationship. But we've always been best friends. We've always been best friends. We've always been friends. I didn't know about his journey that he was having. I don't touch all that stuff. His experiences in elementary school, middle school, high school, college, USU. He decided to go to USU too. His whole family went to BYU. It was following me. I don't know. She knew, but I followed. Opened it up. You were going to ASL mission. They had lots of his paper now. I had submitted my homework and they said they sent it, and then it got lost. So again, I did all my papers again. And then what happened? We went to NTCC. Went to the see each other. Came back. California. I did mine in Arizona. We came back. We tried dating. We didn't want to. Dating was hard. I was not attracted to women. I was attracted to men. I had all these different feelings. So many people it was really hard. I didn't want that. I didn't like dating. It was so hard. I tried it. But I couldn't keep it in that long. So mission, I was done with my mission, came back. And the whole time you didn't say anything. Nope, nope. I said nothing. Possibly my parents knew. Maybe. But don't tell anyone. Do not tell anyone. Do not tell anyone. Do not tell anyone. I will not want anybody to know. So I was on. My days become darker and darker. At that time, the transfer to BYU, correct? I had transferred to BYU. I hadn't really followed her anymore. She. So I was at BYU. I remember. I remember being in the mission, and I let you know what it was, what I was doing. She said, "Do you read your scriptures? Do you pray? Do you do these things?" And I said, "Yes, yes, yes. All the things, do all the things." What about counseling? And I said, "Okay." So we went to the counseling center. My career, my degree was my degree was philosophy. That's what I wanted to which means I was going deep into all these different things and asking questions and existential and all this really heavy stuff. And that really I explained different things that the counselors are going to say. Just not even okay, I was like, that was not helpful. So I got back to keeping it all inside, figuring it inside. And then I want to say, I remember there's a fork in the road. I could either follow God on this path, or I would have to completely 180 change my life. And I was right at the fork. And I said, God. I knew God was my God. I knew He loved all except me, His children. I wasn't testing Him. I wasn't prove to me that I love Him. No, that's just how it was. And I recognized God as my God. And I was ready to let go of that relationship and go over to the path in life. And I told God, if you love me, that's fine. I know I'm not, it's hard because I'm not testing Him, I'm not asking Him, I'm just telling Him, I give up, I can't do this anymore. I know You love me, but I need You to love me for me. At the same time, I had a small flame in my heart. And I told her I was ready to let this go. I'm not going to hold on to it anymore. And if I let it go, I knew I was going to. So a week later, this flame is still inside, it's burning, it's small, it's dim. Honestly, I wanted to blow it out. I wanted to extinguish it. I was ready to do that 180 and change my life to this path. 2 weeks later, the flame is still there, and it's still burning, and it's still going, and I could not put it out. It's small, it's strong. 3 weeks, still burning. Okay. Another conversation time. All right. I see that you do love me. Okay, I accept it. I'm gonna try one more time. So, I my sights were set on the other path. I changed my life to go on the path towards God. I just discovered heaven. Yeah, we already know each other. And we kind of hear my life. So there was a girl at the stadium. And I said, hey, you want to go with my family in Colorado? So we flew to Colorado. I thought they were going there. That's me. I really hate to think about it. Anyway, last night we were like, but I was like, please, for the time I'll play. Okay. This is a good question. I said, God, I don't want you to tell me what to do. I want you to show me what I need to see. I will decide for myself. Oh, he loves that question, let me tell you. Okay, so back to the story. We're in Colorado, I'm with my girlfriend, the girl who was dating is me, I'm with my family. Oh, and Emily, oh, such a cool, we're chatting, oh, this is so fun, blah, blah, blah. 15 minutes, not about it. So I left, and the moment I left, the inspiration hit me. And I felt so close to Happy Father. I felt like it was home, that feeling, that burden inside me. And that girl was like, do you feel that? She's like, I don't know. I said, that lasted, that feeling, that fire, especially last 2 days. I knew I needed to be a married woman. Like, I love your story. And a woman like it, not her, but she's a girl. She's saying, I need a girl like that, but not that. I want a girl like Emily, but not Emily. Even though she's right next to me. So I told her that I'm gay. So he told me, of course I was a little bit shocked, but really, like, huh. My first response was, I know who you are. I have known you since you have been my friend. You have been faithful. It was an open and honest conversation. Before I got married, there was no doubt that I could trust. And that could be my heart. And that I wanted to choose to take the relationship. I mean, we'll summarize this. We got married, we got kids, we've done our careers. At that time, I really didn't know what this relationship was, what was we doing. How do I just about his part of meeting with other people, and I just trusted him. If you're struggling, if you're having a hard time, what do you need? But I wasn't going to, I didn't know. I was going to say, hey, are you looking at a guy? Are you cheating on another guy? No, that never happens. I knew he could be capable. And I knew I had something. I trusted him to let me know and to talk with me. And I loved him back. And that's how it was for 12 years. Well, things would happen every now and then, but nothing was a deep, awful problem. The one book I read is all these different questions that helped me figure out these 2 pieces and parts of my life. It included things like sexual needs, desire, intimacy. How do these things all fit together? And we did have some relationships. So things are not. So not it's fine. Family, happy, kids, family, life, all the things. And one day, I began to say, hey, my workshop. I said, school, workshop, right? Go to workshop. Oh my gosh, that was the workshop. men's conference. And I'll take you close to that. That's what I said. Anybody could do. I said, sure, I'll join. Wow. I'm talking so much. Heavenly Father said, Dee, you have been covering up parts of yourself for so many years. And you are hitting that wall with your love. You're limiting yourself. You need to be open. Your love needs to grow, and I need to say that in their story. You need to show them. And I freaked out. We were sealed by not sacrificing life. This is eternal life. I want it. I know it's true. I can't do it. I can't do it to rest. I freaked out. And I'm children. You didn't believe that. I cannot do what you're asking me to do. So trust me. Trust me. You will not lose your life. You are sealed for eternity. Your family will still be sealed. Trust me. Do it. Do it. Is it okay? Okay. I can just hear far. Trust. After that conference, a lot of things after. We don't have time to cover all of that. Conference is done. The weight I had carried on my shoulders was gone. I felt free. So happy. I was so embarrassed to be gay. Hey, I didn't say hey. Hey, Grace, hey, everybody. I am gay. Hello. I didn't. That wasn't the way it was. That plain and simple. I invited people to know. At that time, I was publishing president. I was for 3.5 years. I said, hey, say president. Yes, God. I already prepared to do this for that. I was already prepared for that. Okay, they freaked out, they wanted more. So I knew I needed to let whoever who's in charge. And I made a list of people I feared should be those that would have control and that would be able to pull strings and laugh and mock at me. I had a lot of fear. And I approached them. I went to the bishop, I went to St. my good friend, I let them know. People who I feared, my family, I let them know that I faced all these fears of the people on my list. I'm sick. I'm going to cut this off. I'm going to cut this part out of me, and I'm going to be done with it. It's not enough. That's enough. I felt more free. And I realized that God never wanted me to feel guilty. Never once. The whole time. He was orchestrating the thoughts that I was awful, that I felt like I didn't deserve things, that I had to cut these things away. I didn't want it. He was the one who told me that God loved me. It was Satan. He was controlling me. So I came home and I just remember driving, crying, and I was laughing, and I was so happy. Every time I tell this story, I just cry. So I come home, sorry. So I'm ready. I'm not hiding anything. And what was your experience with that? Honestly, I was surprised. The whole time for 12 years, we hadn't said anything. Now I understand, opportunity friends and family to bring stuff up and pass that topic, but I didn't say anything that was not my place. Because I would like to get to honor his request to me. I wasn't trying to not tell the truth, but he, at that point, this was his experience, his journey, his story. And so if he wanted to come out, I was like, wait a minute. It's not just coming out for just him, it's for both of us. We're in a relationship together. So that was a new experience and a new journey we had together. I had some fears inside. I didn't want to tell my family just yet. I said, hey, go ahead, Dean, tell your family, tell these people that I am not ready to tell my family. I can't handle that yet. We will get there. And it's interesting for me how people responded to this message. Like the state president said, I love you. I'm not releasing you. I'm not doing that. Another such That's true. That's true. It's just interesting that how people responded. Other people, friends, family, they would contact him and they would immediately say, what about her? How's she doing? That touched me. That we recognize that he wasn't the only one on the journey, and it wasn't a solo experience, it was both of us. That was a moment that really impacted me. Because it was hard. When I told my family, and automatically they got ready to divorce. I never said anything in my email about divorce. They automatically assumed, because I was telling people that to this day that we were ready to divorce. But we have been faithful and committed to each other, and nothing has changed. Our foundation of trust and love. I have never been physically attracted to another woman that I love and support and honor and cherish and trust that relationship, and that was enough. And that has made us stronger. I'm so thrilled that we met in preschool. That was the most important relationship I've ever had in my life. I mean, now it's a big fat hand, God's hand in our way, together, arranging all the pieces. Come on, there he is. We didn't have to get together, Okay, it's working out very well. We understand. We understand. I think one of the last things I want to add is that if any couples or youth or family, how important it is to have support. Because I realized that when we go looking out, I felt really alone. And I didn't know who to talk to. How do you tell someone they came I help? Who do you talk to? Nobody talks about that in our church. How do you ask for help? And so, of course, fortunately, I was able to meet people like that. Other people were through. Other sisters, groups of acquaintances, you know, you're hearing, but and they can understand me and our journey together. And I needed to see that faith. I needed to see sisters who were faithful and couples who were faithful for trying. They weren't worried about being perfect, but they were faithfully trusting their covenants they made with Heavenly Father and the power of those covenants working in their lives. In the scriptures, it talks about taking upon the yoke. And I know many times we envision Jesus Christ and ourselves carrying a load together, equal burden. But for me, I envision it as Dean and I together, yoked together in our covenants. And the driver is driving us is Jesus Christ. Sometimes he sits behind us, he encourages us along, and sometimes we are struggling, and he is right there looking at us saying, let's go, come on, we are doing this. And he's pushing us ahead. We found hope and peace and love and understanding. So, and that great God allows Christ to come into our life more than he ever has. I want to testify that you can be gay and believe in the church of Jesus Christ.